The demons and the chaos gods are some of the coolest parts of Warhammer lore, but sadly, they probably have the lamest kill teams. And I think a lot of that comes from model selection. Each god basically only gets the choice of one model. And missing the different Chaos Gods models in one kill team doesn't really make sense. So in this video, I want to go over what other models I think should be added to each god's kill team, and talk about if each god had their own kill team, what would that look like. So let's start with good old Papa Nurgle. Right now he has Plague Bears, but I think he should also get Nurglings in his team. Just look at these little guys. They're little tiny Nurgle lesser demons that like to cause mayhem and trouble anywhere they go. In 40k, they can be deployed farther up on the board, and have an ability called Squishable, which might be my favorite name for an ability in all of Warhammer. Basically, all it does is it actually nerfs their disgustingly resilient ability to where it only will trigger on attacks that do 1 damage. The kill team equivalent of this would be probably 3 or 4 damage instead of 1, just because the damage numbers are higher in kill team. They aren't strong on their own, but having so many of them, they could just be a nuisance to deal with. But I think you could balance this with having them be like the Posswalkers, where they get a negative to doing mission actions. Next up, we have one of the lesser heralds of Nurgle, which is the Possbringer. He's basically a stronger Plague Bearer, and could probably be used as a leader for that fire team. One really cool thing with him is he's actually a Psyker, which means you get access to the Discipline of Nurgle Psyker powers in Warhammer. Having a Nurgle Psyker sounds like it would just add some variety to this kill team, besides just slow, kind of tanky models. And the final Nurgle model I want to talk about is Sloppity Bilepiper, which I keep wanting to call Sloppity Bippity for some reason, which sounds like some kind of weird Disney demon. In 40k, he's meant to help morale test, but we don't have that in kill team. But the other thing he does is he buffs Nurglings, which we could have. And he either increases their attack power, or makes it where they can advance and charge. The carryover to that would probably be something like a dash and charge, or a move and charge, just helping them kind of roll across the battlefield, and get to their target really quickly. For our next Chaos God, we have Khorne. Right now, the team is entirely Bloodletters, which will still be the base for his team, since that's what most of his demons are. But there are some other models we can throw in there to really mix it up a little bit. The first one is actually an HQ choice in Big Hammer, and it's the Bloodmaster. He's a Bloodletter that has basically collected a lot of blood for the Blood God, and has been promoted up through the ranks, so he's kind of like the Sergeant or an officer equivalent of a Bloodletter. The next model actually has some lore to it, and it's the Skull Taker. The Skull Taker is supposed to be one of the most powerful Bloodletters that Khorne ever has created. Apparently, first thing he did when he was created is just decapitate the nearest Bloodletter immediately, which made Khorne pretty happy. His specialty is taking down enemy leaders and characters and collecting their skulls. Since we don't have the character keyword in Kill Team, I think a good equivalent of this would be copying the Kroot's ability, where every time he kills something, he gains 1 more APL, and he heals up. So if he keeps collecting skulls, he just eventually just becomes a monster on the board. And the final model I think we could add would be the Flesh Hounds. These are the red, fire-breathing beast dog things of Khorne. So they have a flamer attack, which is always fun, and they have good melee, but they are more of a fast-moving, like I said, dog-type model. I don't think we should really be adding bikers and stuff like that into Kill Team itself. I think it should mostly be individual models. But the Kroot has their hounds, and I think this could act kind of the same way, where it's fast, but it's nothing game-breaking. And they actually do have a unique piece of equipment, where it's a certain collar that actually prevents Psyker attacks. So I think that would be fun to have a possible equipment, where if you know you're going to be going up against a Psyker heavy team like Thousand Sons or Warp Coven, you could use this collar, use up a lot of your equipment points for it, and then have models you could put out there that won't just get immediately blasted down by Psyker abilities. So it'd be kind of a fun built-in counterplay mechanic. Now we have Slaanesh, who currently only has Demonettes. Like the Bloodletters, they're going to be the base of the team anyways, but they don't do anything super interesting on their own, so let's see what else we could add in to mix this team up a little bit. The first will be a Herald of Slaanesh. These models can get really high AP. I think in Warhammer, if you roll assists on either your attack or your wound roll, they get like AP -4. And like the other heralds, this one also has the Psyker powers, which is always interesting. So Slaanesh doesn't have a lot of models that are the right base size for Kill Team or even close. One of the only other things I could find were the Seekers, which these are like the mounted demonettes. I know I said I didn't really want mounted units in Kill Team necessarily, but this is basically the only other models that Slaanesh has that's even close to the right base size. So I think there's a couple ways you can incorporate this and it not be game breaking. I think the way to do this would be have it where they could enter in and out of engagement range with no penalties, and maybe did an additional bonus when they charge, like a longer range. This way they could be jumping in and out of combat a lot, and it wouldn't be interfering, because the idea would be they can charge in there and charge out, and you're not going to stop their actual mount. So we have teams that can do that already with a lot of the new Eldar stuff. I don't think giving them extra mobility would really be game-breaking at this point. Now let's look at Tzeentch. His team right now are the pink and blue horrors, which are interesting because when you kill one, they can split into other demons. So they're hard to keep down. If you keep splitting them, even if you thought you killed something and got it off an objective, there's just more of them. So it is a pretty interesting mechanic. But it's very CP heavy. So basically you're saving all of your command points and you're just constantly splitting demons. There's not a lot of variety to it. So let's see what else we can add in to supplement these models and add more variety to the team. The first model here will be the Flamers, which, as the name implies, they use flame attacks. With how popular the more horde numerous teams are in Kill Team, I think having a bunch of Flamers could be interesting, because if you put them where they can attack multiple models at a time, you could really do a lot of damage in one turn. Now for one of the more powerful individual models, we have the Changeling. This one is interesting because we don't have anything even similar to it in Kill Team right now. So it's a Psyker, which is always fun. It gives everything around it a sys-up feel no pain, which is also pretty interesting. But what really makes this model unique, like the name says, is it can copy other models when it fights. So when it goes into melee combat, if there's anything close to it, it can copy their stat lines. So if the enemy has a powerhouse melee model, well, now you do too. All of those powers in one model might be overloaded, so I don't know if we want to cut something out for Kill Team or not. But having it be like a really powerful centerpiece to an army could be a lot of fun. Finally, we have the Streamers, which are also referred to as Sky Sharks. These are demonic beasts that look kind of like manta rays flying through the sky. They have an ability that's really similar to one of the new Eldar Corsair models, where it can actually deal damage as it moves by something. So kind of the concept is it flies by it, it screams, and it does damage while it's flying by. I think between the ability to fly, ignore where other models are, and do damage as it goes by, could be really interesting, because you can kind of ignore terrain, you can ignore enemy models, you can just put them wherever you want them to go, and they'll be doing damage as they fly around. Probably not a lot, but enough to hurt when you get a couple of them going by. I think combining these new models with the blue and pink horrors could give you a lot of variety and the ability to mix and match models, where you can come up with a lot of different strategies within one Kill Team, so you can make them play multiple different ways. So a final note here, I thought about adding the relevant Chaos Space Marines to the Chaos Gods team, but I think we have enough actual Chaos Demons to make a full Kill Team. And I think it'd be a lot more interesting to give each Chaos Space Marine chapter its own Kill Team, where they can actually have something like the Noise Marines with Emperor's Children, or just the different factions by themselves, kind of like what we have with Thousand Suns. So that wraps up which demons I think should be added to each Chaos God's respective Kill Team. I've thought about trying to do a homebrew for some of these, so if any of you want a specific demon's homebrew team, let me know. And if there's any models I missed that would be fun to add in, let me know that down in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.